The truth no one wants to hear. Let's stop pretending. Most people will never be rich. Not because they weren't born into wealth, not because of the economy, not because the world is unfair. They will stay poor because they are mentally conditioned to be. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Poverty is a mindset before it ever becomes a reality. Most people aren't broke because of lack of opportunity. They're broke because of how they think. They've been trained, hypnotized, and programmed to expect little, aim low, and survive instead of build. They speak the language of lack. I can't afford that. People like me don't get rich. Money is the root of all evil. I just want enough to get by. Do you hear it? That's not humility. That's mental slavery. And that voice isn't even theirs. It came from somewhere, a parent, a system, a society that taught them to fear wealth and worship mediocrity. They were born rich in potential, but raised in an environment where comfort was celebrated more than greatness, where struggle was normalized, where dreaming big was mocked, where wealth was seen as suspicious, something other people had. And so they learned to play small, to make excuses instead of decisions, to envy instead of build, to scroll instead of study, to spend instead of invest. This is why most people stay poor, because they never realize that poverty is inherited through thought and passed down through belief. You want to change your money? Change your mind. Not in theory, in ritual. Every single day. Because your bank account is a mirror of your standards, your self-worth, your identity, your belief in what's possible, and your discipline to pursue it relentlessly. It's not about hustle porn. It's not about chasing Lamborghinis. It's about power. The power to choose your life and not be chained to someone else's dream for you. And here's what most people never learn. Wealth is a consequence, a byproduct. It is not earned by working harder. It is earned by thinking better. It is attracted by those who see it as normal, expected, inevitable. But when you see money as a miracle, as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as a rare cosmic event that only happens to lottery winners and tech bros, then guess what? You repel it, because deep down you don't believe it's for you. And the subconscious mind doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you are. You don't manifest millions with vision boards and candles. You build the inner framework first, the thoughts, the expectations, the emotional capacity to receive. But if you've made it this far, you're not like most people. You feel it, that tension, that frustration in your gut when you see people dumbing down their lives to stay safe. That quiet rage when you know you're meant for more, but you're still stuck in patterns that keep you small. Good, hold on to that fire, because in the next moment, we shift everything. Poverty isn't just financial, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's generational. It's the invisible hand on your shoulder whispering, "That's too much. Who do you think you are?" It's the look you saw on your parents' face when the bills stacked up, the fights, the silence at the dinner table, the unspoken message burned into your nervous system. Money equals pain. Money equals pressure. Money equals stress. So what did you do? You formed a relationship with money based on fear. You associated it with guilt, with survival, with just enough to get by. And now, as an adult, you sabotage your own success, not because you're lazy, but because deep down, part of you believes wealth will cost you love, peace, or identity. This is the truth no one teaches. Most people don't fear failure. They fear success, because success would mean becoming someone new, someone their old circle might not understand, someone their family might resent, someone they themselves might not recognize. And it's easier to stay broke than to face that inner war. It's easier to point fingers, to blame the system, the schools, the economy, the government, than to look in the mirror and say, I'm the one repeating the pattern. I'm the one choosing comfort over calling. I'm the one playing small so others don't feel insecure. But let's be clear. You were not born to carry the weight of your ancestors' financial trauma. You were born to break it, and it starts by rejecting the habits that protect poverty. Living for weekends instead of building wealth. Spending before you invest. Watching Netflix more than studying your future. Complaining about the rich instead of learning from them. Talking more than executing. Dreaming but never deciding. These are not small things. These are rituals of poverty, done daily, unconsciously, habitually, and every time you participate, you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't believe they're worthy of abundance. So let me ask you, do you want wealth or do you want to feel safe? Because most people confuse the two. They think wealth is found in the illusion of security, a 9-to-5 that pays just enough to forget your dreams, a degree that promised more than it delivered, a lifestyle that looks rich on Instagram but is drowning in debt behind the scenes. But wealth is not comfort. Wealth is expansion. It's like asking for sunlight while hiding in the shade. Asking for growth, but refusing to let go of what's dying. Asking for abundance, while still speaking the language of scarcity. You can't plant seeds in poisoned soil and expect a harvest. You must purge the beliefs that choke your roots, the belief that success is selfish, the belief that money corrupts, the belief that you'll lose yourself if you rise. No, you will find yourself, because when you step into wealth consciously, with integrity, purpose, and vision, you don't become greedy. You become generous. You don't become cold. You become capable. You don't lose your soul. You gain the power to serve from a place of overflow. This is not about greed. This is not about yachts and chains and fake smiles. This is about freedom. This is about becoming untouchable, not because you have money in your hand, but because you have power in your mind. That's what real wealth is. That's what most never reach. That's what you're here for. And the road starts now. You cannot build a rich life with a poor mind. You cannot expect wealth while nurturing the thoughts that repel it. Because here's the raw truth. Money is not just in your wallet. It's in your wiring. And most people, they've been wired to lose. They've been taught to fear money, to chase it, then resent it, to work for it, but never hold it, to want it, but believe they're not worthy of it. So they spend their lives stuck in a loop. Earn, spend, regret, hope, worry, repeat. Why? Because they never did the inner work. They learned strategy but not psychology. They studied investing but never invested in their own belief system. They got advice from broke friends and broke media and built a relationship with money based on scarcity, survival, and shame. But you're not like most people. You are here because something inside you is ready to reprogram. Not with hype, not with wishful thinking, but with mental blueprints that align your identity with abundance. So listen carefully. Your income will never exceed your identity. Your wealth will never outgrow your self-worth. And your external life will always reflect your internal standards. That means the work doesn't begin with more hours, it begins with more clarity. It starts with asking, who do I have to become to live the life I keep saying I want? Not it's built when you stop living like a consumer and start operating like a creator. Because here's the switch. Poor minds consume, rich minds create. Poor minds wait for permission. Rich minds give themselves assignment. Poor minds chase comfort. Rich minds chase clarity. Then act, whether it's comfortable or not. And this isn't about what you were born into. It's about what you're becoming. You weren't born to be broke. You weren't born to live life on the edge of enough. You weren't born to watch others rise while you pretend you don't care. You were born to build, to become the source, to stop chasing and start magnetizing. Because the person who masters their mind, who rewires their beliefs, who controls their focus, who redefines their emotional relationship with money, becomes unshakable. You want freedom? Master your inner economy first. You want peace? Upgrade your financial standards, starting with how you think, speak, act, and plan. Because the universe doesn't respond to begging, it responds to belief. And belief is not loud, it's not hype, it's not ego, it's quiet, it's firm, it's unmoving. It sounds like this: I don't know how yet, but I will figure it out. I don't have all the tools, but I'll become the person who does. This will be mine, not because of luck, but because I've decided. That's how wealthy minds speak, not in arrogance, but in alignment. And once the mind believes, the strategy will follow. The habits will catch up, the opportunities will emerge, the focus will lock in, and you will start to move like someone who knows it's already done. There is one moment, one pivot, one mental switch that changes everything. It's called decision. Not the kind that's soft, not the kind you whisper when you feel motivated, but the kind you etch into your soul and never take back. Most people stay poor because they never make it. They try, they hope, they want, but they never decide. And without decision, the mind stays open to negotiation. It wavers. It justifies failure. It accepts average. Because there is no line in the sand, no non-negotiable identity to uphold. But the wealthy, not just financially but mentally, they don't live by emotion, they live by a decision. They don't rise because it's easy. They rise because they've already chosen who they will become, before the proof shows up. Look at any self-made success story, you'll see it. The moment they burned the bridge, the moment they cut off the option to stay poor. That's what decide means. From the Latin, to cut off, to eliminate all other options, to say I will rise or I will die trying. That's why most never do it. Because deciding means killing off the old self, the one who's been in control for years, the one who plays it safe, the one who says, let's be realistic. Realistic? Since when did realism become? Realistic keeps you broke. Realistic keeps you employed by someone else's dream. Realistic keeps your family trapped in the same cycle for generations. What you need isn't realism. What you need is vision. Because the poor operate by memory. They live in the past. They reference who they've been, what they've seen, what went wrong. But the wealthy, they live by vision. They reference the future more than the past. They see something greater before anyone else does. And they live from that place. Not for 5 minutes when the music hits, but every single day. They hold a vision when the bank account is empty. They hold the vision when no one believes. They hold the vision when their old life starts begging for them back. That's why they win, not because they're better, not because they're smarter, but because they made one move you haven't made yet. They decided. And then they moved. And then they never stopped moving. You think you're waiting for the right time, the right plan, the right feeling, but none of that is coming. What's coming is a test to see if you'll finally become someone who acts without needing motivation, someone who doesn't need a cheerleader, someone who creates internal fire. Because that's what separates the builders from the wishers. That's what makes the uncommon rise. They don't wait for permission. They move in silence. They build when it's boring. They execute when it's hard. They grind when it's dark. And that's where wealth is made, not in the glow of inspiration, but in the grit of decision. If you want to be rich, in money, in mind, in mastery, you must decide that this version of you is done. The hesitant you, the broke you, the one-day you, the distracted, overthinking, emotional, inconsistent you, that identity, it dies now, because it has no place in the life you say you want. You don't get to keep your excuses and your dream. You don't get to stay the same and become someone new. One of them has to die. And if you're still breathing right now, you already know which one it has to be. It's not the big decisions that keep people poor. It's the daily ones, the invisible ones, the ones they think don't matter. But the wealthy, the self-made, the uncommon, the dangerous, they know something most people never figure out. Your rituals reveal your future. You can lie to your friends. You can fool your followers. But your daily disciplines, they will expose who you really are. So ask yourself, what are you doing when no one's watching? What are you thinking when no one's clapping? What are you tolerating, delaying, avoiding, excusing? Because that's the difference between the poor and the powerful. The poor wait for pressure, the power, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Here's the truth. You don't just get rich. You train for it. You become someone who can handle it. Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about emotional strength, mental toughness, the ability to keep building when everyone else is breaking. So, what are your rituals? Do you wake up and own the day, or do you let the day own you? Do you create your thoughts, or do you consume everyone else's? Do you invest in your skills, your mindset, your future, or do you spend everything on escape? Most people say they want wealth, but their habits are aligned with survival. Their standards are built for comfort. Their days are filled with distractions. Let me be clear. If your calendar doesn't match your goals, you're lying to yourself. You can say you want freedom, but if you're not living with discipline, if you're not moving like the person who earns it, you're not serious. You're just entertained. And here's the hardest truth of all. Your future is hiding inside your boring days. Not the big wins, not the loud launches, but the quiet ones, the early mornings no one sees, the lonely reps no one claps for, the rejected ideas you keep pushing anyway, the goals you review daily, the money you manage with intention, even when it's small, the mindset you rehearse every single time fear shows up. Because the poor, they do what's easy and call it normal. But the wealthy, they do what's uncomfortable and call it required. They're not perfect, but they're consistent. They don't let mood decide movement. They've trained themselves to act on decision, not emotion. And while the average person is waiting for motivation, the wealthy are already moving, already building, already compounding the invisible winds that will one day shock the world. That's what separates those who rise from those who regret. So here's the challenge. Audit yourself. Look your rituals in the face. Track your time. Watch your patterns. Ask yourself honestly, is this version of me worthy of the life I'm asking for? If the answer is no, change. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the dream doesn't wait, and the world doesn't pause for people still deciding. Here's a truth that will make you uncomfortable. The difference between rich and poor isn't just in money. It's in how they think when no one's... Because the poor see money emotionally. They get it and they spend it. To feel good, to fill the void, to escape their reality. The rich, they see money as a tool, not to impress, but to multiply, not to escape, but to build, not to stunt, but to serve. Where poor minds look for comfort, wealthy minds look for leverage. They don't ask, what can I buy? They ask, what can I build that pays me forever? Because the truth is brutal. Poor thinking trades time for money. Rich thinking trades thought and discipline for freedom. Poor minds see the weekend as relief. Rich minds see it as an edge. While others are numbing themselves, they're refining the plan. They're reading. They're moving pieces in silence. They're studying how to never need a vacation from the life they're building. That's the difference. Not better, not more worthy, just more focused, more intentional. And here's the most devastating part. Rich and poor live on the same streets, breathe the same air, go to the same schools, have the same hours in the day. But one built a mind that turns ideas into income, while the other built habits that bury dreams in distraction. It's not about where you're from. It's about what you believe deep in your core. Do you believe your future is in your control or someone else's? Do you believe you were made to create or to obey? Do you believe discipline is pain or power? Because what you believe, you become. And most people, they were trained to believe they'll never rise, so they don't. They never question the script. They never challenge the system. They never fight back against the voice that says, people like you don't win. But here's what the winners know. That voice is lying, and the minute you call it out, the minute you stop negotiating with it, you begin to reclaim your fire. This is the mental war that decides wealth. Not how much you hustle, not how many degrees you have, but whether or not you are willing to kill the version of you that protects your smallness. The part of you that says, be careful. The part that says, not yet. The part that gets high off dreaming but never executes. That version is not loyal to your future. It's addicted to your past. You've fed it long enough. Now, it's time to starve it. Starve the overthinking, starve the excuses, starve the doubt, starve the poverty programming that told you you weren't meant for greatness, and feed something new. Because this world, this economy, this life rewards creators, not complainers, not bystanders, creators. They walk through life chained to an outdated identity, one built by fear, fused in failure, and protected by a fragile ego that screams, "Stay safe." They keep their dream on a leash. They keep their ambition sedated. They keep their fire locked behind a mask of humility, when deep down they are burning with the hunger to build. But here's the truth. If you want to rise, if you want to walk the path of wealth, of freedom, of creation, of true power, then that old identity, the poor version of you, must die. The version of you who hides behind procrastination, the version of you who blames instead of builds, the version who spends more time escaping than executing, the version who fears success because they've never seen what it feels like. Let it die, because it was never really you. It was a costume you inherited from teachers, from systems, from people who never escaped the trap. But now you know too much. Now you've heard the voice calling you to more. Now you've seen what's possible, not out there in the world, but in you. And that's the most dangerous realization of all. That you were the one holding the keys the entire time. That you were never unlucky, just undeclared. That you were never unworthy, just undecided. And now, right now, is the moment that splits time. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, this is the second where you bury the identity of lack. The version of you that tolerates just enough. The version that apologizes for dreaming big. The version that flinches when it's time to invest in yourself. You're done with that because you weren't built to survive. You were built to create wealth that lasts, to create a legacy that speaks long after you're gone, to create a mind so powerful, no recession, no failure, no betrayal can break it. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost your excuses. It will cost your comfort. It will cost you being liked by everyone who's still asleep. But what you gain your life, your real life, the one you've seen in your visions. And that is why you will never be poor again.